Bang it on the window. Bang it on the door. Bang it on the ceiling. Bang it on the floor. Bang it stout and still.
What's going on? Jobs. In a slimming down operation at the Imperial Seabird Clinic, 250 cleaning staff have lost their jobs. However, there are now several thousand new opportunities for cockroaches with the new private cleaning contractors at the hospital.
Get off!
Young people today should not have the option of unemployment. I fail to see why we should pay social security benefits to those who are too lazy to avail themselves of the training opportunities this government provides. The jobs are there if only you go out and look for them, and provided you don't price yourselves out of them. I can't understand what young people want money for anyway. They'd only fritter it away on slot machines and ice lollies.
Stupid games. Still, there's one thing. When you're unemployed, at least your time's your own.
Government schemes are calling. All you girls and boys. Quality is appalling. You haven't got the choice. You have got no future. And you will get no dough. Off your bums, you moochers. Come and dig a hole.
Three weeks ago, I was made redundant. You know, before that, I had the only decent job I've ever had in my life, right, and that was sweeping the roads for the county council. When I left school, I didn't think that I'd view a job as a road sweeper for the county council as the pinnacle of, you know, the highest achievement of my life so far. But it was. I'd love to go back to that job. You know, I'm 22 years old. I want to be in a position to be thinking about a future, and not just rotting around waiting for the next scheme to come along, right? It seems to be that you can spend your whole life on schemes. You can go from youth training scheme to an intermediate type scheme that they're setting up all around the country, then on to community programme, and then you can go on the dole for 6 months and then maybe get another community programme if you're lucky. Did you go and look at that flat in Moseley? And there's a whole generation of people like us that have never known anything apart from really badly paid jobs or some form of scheme. I'd be over 200 quid.
I've been looking for a flat for the last few months, and the only way you can get one, which is any good, I mean, you can get loads of little hovels, sort of one-room bed sits with sort of damp and cockroaches and everything else. But to get a decent flat, the only way the landlord would even consider you is if you can come up with about 200 quid for sort of a month's rent and a deposit. Right, now how many people on the dole has got 200 quid to spare like that?
Our mum and dad both got made redundant within the space of about 6 weeks, and our dad used to work at the Austin British Leyland making cars, and our mum used to work at a local engineering factory in Rubery, and they both lost their jobs and they moved down south to Hertfordshire because our dad had got a chance for another job. But we were in Birmingham, you know, we didn't want to move to the south, right? All our friends were in Birmingham, that sort of stuff. And like I say, sometimes you have no choice but to leave home, right? And it shouldn't be so hard for youth to find somewhere to live.
I've left school 5 years. I've had no chance of jobs. I've done my training. I've been 2 years experience in painting and decorating. And there's just no jobs. And I'm not prepared personally to accept low wages. But I'll not be working for less than 80 quid a week because you just can't live on anything under that.
We're not responsible for a crisis, an economic crisis. All we've ever done is go out to work when we've been allowed to. All we've ever done is do our day's work, and we get nothing back from it. We get no future.
But when I first came to Open Door, there was a group running called Welfare Rights. It was run by a bloke called Martin Fitch from the Social Services. And all it was for couples on Social Security. And it was making sure that they got the benefits properly, making sure that the money was right and they were claiming what they were claiming for, they were getting the proper entitlements. Well, a lot of people think of essential items as something like big, like a three-piece suite or a carpet. But an essential item can be as small as a saucepan. If they take the time to go and get the leaflets for the Social Security issue, because they are issued by the Social Security, they've got plenty in Open Door, they'll find a whole list of things that they can claim for, from three-piece suites to irons. It's just that they don't know these things. The Social Security are not going to tell them, so it's up to them to get out and find out for themselves from people like us who've had experience with the Social Security and experience in claiming.
They try and make you feel guilty, and it's like, honest to God, it's like them picking money out of their own pockets, as if they're paying you out of their own pockets, when you're entitled to it, especially if you've been working a lot of years, the amount of tax you've paid. You're entitled to your unemployment.
Oh, yeah. It's a thing called pride, especially old age pensioners. I mean, the media are always showing the fiddles and the frauds. They don't tell you the thousands of pounds that people are not claiming. And swallow your pride.
If you don't push, if you're not pushy and you're not obstinate and firm, then you don't get anything. They just, I don't know, they treat you like you're ignorant. And if you can get somewhere like a benefits advice centre or somewhere like Open Door, where there's a lot of unemployed people who are willing to sit down and tell you how that's how I got most of my stuff, through listening to people in there saying, oh, didn't you know you can get tea towels and pots and pans? You have to fight hard, otherwise you don't get anything.
All right, I tell them what I want. If they write back and refuse me, then I say, right, tell me why you refuse me. And if you're going to refuse me again, put in the appeal form and I'll go to the tribunal. No messing about.
One of the major functions of the Brent Unemployed Workers Centre is to let the unemployed in this borough organise themselves. We've got a number of basic education classes. We've got basic computing, basic English, basic maths. We even do black history, seeing as this is a multiracial borough. It's for the unemployed in this borough to come in and organise campaigns around the issue of unemployment themselves, of course with the help of a couple of workers.
The union would already have a grievance procedure drawn up.
We go into schools and we talk to preschool leavers. Just give them basic trade union education sessions. Tell them what the union can offer them.
The union will defend you to the last drop of its blood.
A lot of them have got really terrible stereotyped ideas about what trade unions are. The sort of Sun or News of the World image that trade unions just go out on strike at the drop of a hat. So we tell them the nitty-gritty about unions as well, what sort of protection, coverage they give their workers.
Will the trade union help you?
The vast majority of school leavers around here will be forced to go on 2 years YTS due to new government legislation. So we just try and tell them that the health and safety aspect on a lot of these schemes is really bad. So there's one reason they should have a union in there straight away, so we can get all that fixed up. A pay rise, most probably. We got a pay rise for most of the schemes in Brent anyway, but there's a few that still need that. I mean, I was a trainee here myself and I've seen the benefits. Had a guy come up from the union, he gave us a couple of talks. All the trainees decided what he was saying was pretty realistic, so we decided to join. I was elected trainee rep by the rest of the trainees here, me and two other guys. So we set about getting a few improvements, health and safety wise. The trainees were really unhappy with the canteen, so we got that fixed. And then we went for our major objective, which was a pay rise. Went to the local council, lobbied the councillors as they went in. Then two of us managed to get in, talked to the council. Then they granted us a top-up from the £25 we were on, the standard MSc rate, up to £32.49, which is the most you could get without being taxed. And then after that, with bus fare allowances and dinner allowances, it's up to about £45, £46. So it's nearly doubled, and that's really good. Since I finished on this scheme, started working at Brent Unemployed Workers Centre. A lot of the work we do is with YTS trainees. We've got trades union reps here that look after the trainees, and if there's anything they can't handle, they can always phone us down at the centre, and we come up on a sort of fortnightly basis. One of the major problems that we face is that the trainees join these schemes. They're only here for 12 months, and they join on a staggered entry basis. So, I mean, you unionise them, and 6 months later, 45–50% of the trainees, new in fact, so they aren't in the union, so you have to come back and do it again, and it's an uphill struggle. It really is. You have to keep on coming back again and again and again, and you just got to not let yourself get disillusioned.
Jobs, and another 2 real jobs have been created for young penguins in a well-known computer firm.
So come on, kids, get on your bikes and get on down to Waltech.
What incredible luck! We got the jobs!
Welcome to the Waltech wonderful world of work, where management and workforce form a harmonious, efficient and forward-looking partnership. You've probably heard of the Waltech Prune series all-in-one solid-state of-the-art self-washing user-friendly electrically powered computer. Well, your job will be to put it in its box, OK?
What are the prospects on this job?
After 6 months, if you're good, you might get to work the forklift.
Introducing the WB100 Unitary Personalized Freight Transportation Module from Walrus Technology. An hour from now, and you'll wish you'd had one.
Morning, partners. I've got some good news and some not-so-good news. The good news is Waltech's profits are up 500% on last year. The not-so-good news is that because of the surprise lack of demand for the WB100, I'm afraid I'm going to have to let 50% of your partners go. So who are going to be the lucky ones to play? Beat the boot! All you have to do is step up on the conveyor and answer a simple question. If you give the right answer, you stay on the conveyor. If you give the wrong answer, you get the boot. OK, son. Would you like better pay for doing less work? Materialistic loafer. Now, your question, young lady, are you prepared to keep your nose clean and your mouth shut?
Well, that depends.
Next question, do I like your face? The answer is, I don't, you bloody bolshe. Young man, your question is this. Do you want to go to the toilet?
I'm employed as the painter and decorator on this community programme scheme. When I went for to fill out the application forms, the guy that worked there was very funny with me. He seemed to think that me being a woman meant that I couldn't handle the job. I mean, I'd be okay at painting my own house perhaps, but not actually doing a painting and decorating job. And he nearly put me off. I nearly walked away and said, oh well, forget it all. But I stuck my ground and I filled it all in and actually got the job, which, you know, pleased me greatly. I think I proved my point. I'm the only woman doing the building side. I mean, there's women working in the canteen and in the creche. I find it okay. Sometimes it can get a bit dodgy. Most of the men are aware of the word sexual harassment, and sometimes they treat it as a bit of a joke. They don't take it that seriously, and sometimes the joking can go a bit over the top. On this scheme, We're actually paid the union rate of pay, so the pay's okay. We're actually in the union as well, which is quite unique for a community programme scheme. And it's all in a very good cause. It's a nice big house and it's interesting work as well. It's going to be a community centre for the area. Old age pensioners and young people, disabled, the whole spectrum. There was a lot of enthusiasm when we first got here. We couldn't do, you know, we were always working, and as soon as 8 o'clock came round we were out there and all the lads were full of energy, shoveling loads into wheelbarrows and stuff. But now it's tapered off a bit, we're hanging round, and the initial impetus is gone. It's because you know that in, 6 months it's all going to be over and you're back on the dole again. There's not that, you haven't got much of a future to look forward to. I expect more. I mean, having done this job for a year and getting really confident, I want to have a decent job at the end of it, and to have the prospect of just a low-paid, crummy job isn't, you know, it's not very exciting.
Hey, Mark! Let me in.
I work on an adventure playground in West London. We cater for school-aged children. We have an outside adventure play area, and we also have an internal area, which is a hut.
Because he likes me.
I think when people start in a job like this, they start with a lot of benevolent ideas, charitable ideas, and don't feel positive about joining a trades union. But after a while, when they've found out exactly what work entails, and the fact that even though you are working with kids in what are usually quite deprived areas, it's still a job after all, and you need decent remuneration for it. You need to work a decent working week that doesn't exhaust you, and you also need a reasonable amount of holiday every year so you can relax from your job and then go back into it with as much vigour as you started in the first place. And that's where actually being in a union helps, because if you can see what kinds of benefits other people are getting, you can ask for those yourself. On hours and holidays, we've recently negotiated a new contract, which took the hours down from 40 a week to 35 hours a week. And for holidays, it's taken us from 4 weeks holiday a year to 6 weeks holiday a year, which is more in line with what youth workers get.
Right, after Sinead, Martin. All right, Liam, you go down now.
I think the government quite like to have a large number of unemployed people, because it means that they can keep wages down and create the sort of job market where people are very insecure in their jobs and they're prepared to take lower wages. I think it's appalling. I mean, one thing that can be said for adventure play is it brings out children's aspirations and what they want to do. You can look around the playground, you can see by the kinds of activities that they choose to do, what kinds of jobs they want to do. You see in the playground, you see carpenters, you see painters, you see sweepers, you see dustmen, you see everything. And the fact is that the majority of kids that play in this playground and playgrounds all over the country are probably going to be shunted into a scheme for 1 year, and then they're going to be dropped off onto the dole for good.
Hello, Housing Benefits, can I help you?
Well, when I first came to work here, I joined the union because everybody else was in it. Hardly anything went on in the office to do with unions until we had our own sort of dispute with management. This was over the introduction of new technology and a regrading claim. We didn't see eye to eye over it, and it ended up that management said, the new technology, the new VDUs or whatever, or you go home, which ended up that we had 5-week strike. And that was an awful time for everybody. I mean, I got really upset a couple of times through the strike because it was very alien to all of us. We were 55 women and just a few men, Never been on strike before, and it was really frightening.
It was absolutely horrible. It was a big worry, really, because I mean, you didn't know if you was going to lose your job, worrying about the money. But a lot of the older people who were coming in, you know, sort of brushing past you and giving you a bit of abuse. A lot of them just, you know, run you down all the time. Some of them just laughed at you as if you were stupid in what you was doing. But once you'd actually told them what was going on and how it had come about, they was okay with you. Well, we got what we wanted. And after about 5 weeks, we came back and everything's been all right since. It's worth joining a union, because we're like, when we was at school, you taught nothing about unions at all. And you obviously come into a job, you don't know a thing about them. And I think you ought to be given some type of, they ought to be shown something of your rights at work, what you should know before you start work. So it gives you a bit more light, you know, like when you go into your job.
I think people who work in the whole range of service industries, like in shops, in restaurants, hotels, quick food bars and so on, they all get treated really badly. They're asked to do just about any job that comes along, no matter what they were taken on to do. I mean, I was taken on as a furniture porter in the store that I work, but I'm asked to do jobs that have nothing to do with furniture portering, and that applies to people who work in all these places. We managed to do something about that on one occasion, when we were asked to move some building materials. We said to our management that we weren't going to do it, that our job was furniture porters and that's what we were going to do. And so, because all the people that I work with are in a trade union, we managed to persuade our management that they were going to have to get someone else to do the moving. It's possible that in the future all shop workers are going to have to start working on Sundays because of changes in the law. And so we're now organising quite a large campaign here in central London on that issue. We've approached, well, thousands of shop workers, and during the last year we've had 1,500 people join up. When we meet people in the shops, a lot of them think that because the employers don't want them to join a trade union, that they're actually not allowed to. But they do have a fundamental right to join a trade union, and they can do. People are also not aware of rights as far as the level of wages are concerned. Well, people who work in some of these smaller shops up and down here and in, say, the cafes and restaurants in these streets around here will be working on wages like £70 to £80 a week, and they're like legal minimum wages from the wages councils. And those are wages which are just enough to keep people going if they have to pay their own rent, pay for their food, pay for travel. And if they haven't been paid the legal minimums, then we can make sure they get back paid. Just had a recent example of that, where people were working, I think 40 hours, and they were only being paid for 38. And we made sure that they got 4 months back pay, so they got a nice big cheque for all that money, which is great, and it's something that we can do straight away with no problem. People who work in all these places, I think, get that respect taken away from them. They get treated with disrespect, and they're asked just to do anything that comes along and skivvy whenever asked. And in all these service industries, self-respect is a really important question.